Miller will join us in just a second. He was in many ways Canada's dad, the father of the greatest hockey player ever, although to Walter, Wayne was just one of his 5 children, along with Keith and Brent and Glenn and Kim. He was the one who nurtured Wayne's remarkable talents on that backyard rink in Brantford, and house he never left. And even with all the fame, in the end, he was just Walter, the hockey dad, his entire life. Let's bring in Gord Miller. In many ways, Gord, Walter, as important a character in our hockey nation's fabric as his son Wayne.
He really is. I think there's so much to think about, you know, the popularity of backyard rinks. Walter used to use a lawn sprinkler to flood his backyard rink. The problem was it kept freezing in the winter and breaking. Walter was the only person in Canada who went to hardware stores in the middle of December and January to buy lawn sprinklers. But there was just so much to Walter that, you know, he had the aneurysm in 1991 that almost took his life. But he came back from that and was such an inspiration to people. Walter was a person who would turn off the lights and kick us out. It's like that every night. That's the way he was. When I think of the word for Walter, I think of authentic. He was an authentic Canadian who lived in the same house, was devoted to his wife, was devoted to his family, and was devoted to his country. And he was just an authentic, great Canadian.
You mentioned that aneurysm, lost much of his memory, including much of Wayne's career, but in many ways was a happier person after that. And you're right, never turned down an autograph, never turned down a photo. Let's bring in Darren Dreger. How important a person in Canada's hockey history?
Significant, no question. I mean, obviously very sad, but what a life and what a wonderful legacy. You know, Walter really was considered part of hockey royalty, not just in North America or in Canada, but internationally as well. In Canada, he symbolizes the sport, you know, terrific ambassador for our country. As Gord alludes to, I mean, there's always the smile. There's always a funny story. You always felt better when you spent a little bit of time in your day with Walter Gretzky. I know in conversation with Wayne over the years, you know, he marveled at the collection that Walter Gretzky held on to until the end. And that would be sticks that Gretzky played with when he was 5 years old, his first jersey, the pucks, the trophies, all of that. Canada's most cherished hockey dad, and he will be deeply missed.
Playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, James, Walter was at a lot of the games, and a couple things I'll take away. Both of you and Gord mentioned his time for people, the autographs. You can just imagine all the parents, the handshaking. They'd always have a question. How did Wayne learn how to stick handle? And he would always sit and have the time to respond to the question. The second thing I realized sitting on the bench when they'd show on the Jumbotron, you would think that hockey royalty would sit and kind of be quiet and not too engaged, but he would stand up, he would wave the towel, he would have a great time at the Maple Leaf games, and he wasn't shy to do it. I loved watching it.
You know, I had a rare experience with Walter Gretzky during the summer of '87. I was rooming with Wayne, of course, one of the opposition that I had to deal with, and I was rooming with him during the Canada Cup. And we had an exhibition game in Hamilton, so Walter suggested to Wayne that we invite some of the Russian players over to a barbecue at his home. And, you know, originally it was, okay, well, we're going to have 3 players over. And they came back with a note, Tikhonov, the coach, did, that it had to be the whole team. It couldn't just be a couple of them. And Walter was saying, well, you know, I live in a modest 3-bedroom home in Brantford. We can't have the whole team over. And so they pared it down, and eventually it was Fetisov, Makarov, and Larionov, Tikhonov, their driver, who was an interpreter, and a 6th gentleman who just happened to be there, who was part of the security force. So it was very, very formal at the start of the evening. We all went through the interpreter. Everything had to go through the interpreter. And eventually Walter, you know, who was the absolute patriarch, he was the host. He was having these famous Russian players, 3 of the famous Russian 5 over to his house for a barbecue. And now he's going to start to sneak the guys downstairs to the trophy room. Well, you might imagine, Wayne has a pretty impressive trophy room. And so first it was Larionov, and he snuck him down the stairs, and I was part of the conspiracy. I was the guardian of the stairs. So I was in on it, of course, and I would watch him showing these guys around the basement, showing them the trophies. And there was a little beer fridge in the corner, so he was sneaking them beers because they weren't allowed to have beers upstairs. And he was just so proud, the ultimate hockey dad. We all know hockey dads, and they're so proud. Well, this just happened to be the hockey dad of the greatest player who ever played. And that evening, I've thought about it often. It stands out for me on how proud the patriarch was to share with those 3 Russian hockey players.
Well, Dave, the last time I saw him in person was that night last year when you were inducted into the Etobicoke Sports Hall of Fame. And he was there being honored as well and already suffering the effects of Parkinson's. But when we didn't think he would speak, but got up and spoke briefly and got a long-standing ovation. Walter could command a room right until the very end. My favorite memory was playing golf with him at Wayne's tournament many years ago, Gino Reda and I. And all Walter did the entire round was look for golf balls. Walter! Walter! Don't worry. Just a really special person. And I think it feels like almost every Canadian has a Walter story, meeting him at a rink or at a game somewhere, and just had time for everyone. Go where the puck is going, not where it's been, is what he always said. Walter Gretzky passing away at the age of 82 and will be missed by all Canadians. Our condolences to the Gretzky family.